Thanks for joining us today for our Nonprofit Fundamentals video series. I'm April Kushner, joined with Adam, and we are here today with Lauren Frary. So Lauren consults with our nonprofits on a variety of different topics, but one of the most important things we wanted to touch on today is fundraising. So if you're a nonprofit who's traditionally funded by federal, state, or local grants, you may find yourself in a position where you want to diversify your funding or start raising more money so you can continue to fulfill your mission and serve your consumers and your community. So where do you start? If you traditionally haven't fundraised before and you want to start, what should an organization do?
Call Lauren.
Call me. I think one of the things that you want to think about first of all is what fundraising is not, right? So fundraising is not a single event. It's not a grant proposal. It is certainly not a way to manage a deficit in your operating budget, right? So think about it that way. What it is, though, is kind of a comprehensive set of activities that you use the entire year to manage and to support the mission and the impact of your organization to the community.
So fundraising, when we say fundraising, it could mean a lot of things. It could be going after individuals, going after foundations, corporations, special events. So as a nonprofit, you have all these options. You cast a wide net, you cast a small net. Like, how do you start? How do you go about? How do you pick what category you want to target?
So I believe that all nonprofits, big or small, should actually start with developing an annual resource development plan or fundraising plan, and actually outline all of those activities that you're going to do throughout the year that will support ultimately donations and contributions. Mm-hmm. I think in terms of casting the net, it really depends on your mission and your impact in the community. Do you serve a broad community or do you serve a small community deeply? And I think that's what's going to drive how you cast your net.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the elements in that fundraising plan?
So the fundraising plan would include things like, of course, the obvious things, events and grants, but should also include things like outreach and education and annual appeals. And most importantly, and often forgotten, is the cultivation and stewardship activities.
So what are some best practices when it comes to, starting out with a fundraising plan? Like, what's the best place where you start?
I think the place to start is really making sure that you have your materials up to date and that they're compelling, right? Do you have an annual report? Do you have a newsletter? How are you communicating with your public? So make sure you have up-to-date information. Make sure that all of your social media is up to date. We know now that people really don't read a whole lot. They like visually stunning pieces, lots of pictures that will tell the story. So just make sure that you have all of your collateral up to date, that it's interesting, so that people actually pick it up and read it.
Are you saying we have short attention spans?
And they're getting shorter.
Yeah, they are.
And I think knowing who your donor is, right? So some may want to read something in paper or a more lengthy article. Some may want something short and more visually appealing, short and sweet. So I think knowing your donors is important.
Sure. And we've talked about this before in terms of just the generations out there that are philanthropists, right? We've got 4 or 5 generations. So you want to make sure that whatever pieces you're sending out, appeals or newsletters, appeal to a multitude of those generations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good point about different generations, because, one generation is a lot different than the other. That's why we have the divides there. So how do you fundraise to multiple generations? Is there a certain way of going about it? You just pick a certain segment and just go after them?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go after the baby boomers because they're retiring, they have all this wealth now sitting there, versus, let's say, millennials and zoomers who are they don't have as much wealth.
Right. So I think you want to customize your pieces. Anything that you're sending out, I think older generations do like the paper, the touch. Younger generations obviously like social media. We know now that you can actually fundraise through texting. We know that texts are read, I think 85% of the time, and publications maybe not so much. So understand your audience, customize. You can customize a single piece, a single appeal in different ways for the different generations. I think the other thing you should understand is the giving trends of each generation, right? And you can find some of that information through the Giving Trends reports that we've talked about in the past. But understand, the trends of those donors and see where your organization and your mission fits in with those trends.
And I'd imagine that this fundraising plan, it's not just something that management gets involved with, but also the board. I would imagine This is a collaborative effort of making sure that everyone's kind of on the same page about where you're going to focus your efforts for fundraising.
And it's actually a part of that plan, right? So part of that plan is, where is the board going to start to use their networks, personal and professional networks, to open doors for you? How are they supporting your events? So there is a role for the board in that fundraising plan, and it should be very, very clearly defined for your board members.
So you have the plan, it's going ahead. How do you evaluate success? Because cultivation takes a long time. It takes time to build those relationships. You're not going to have success overnight. So how do you know you're on the right path?
So, you obviously, like any strategic plan, right, you kind of keep data, on the revenue expenses that are being generated by your activities, or just the sheer number of publications that you send out. And so each year, at the end of the year, you review your results and you adjust the plan based on those results. So maybe an organization had a really great, successful golf outing, but didn't really raise a whole lot through their annual appeal. Then they can adjust their fundraising plan the next year based on those results. And you just kind of keep evolving that plan as you understand your audience, your donors, and your results.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Lauren. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
telling us all about fundraising.
Enjoy!